The US is loaded with states that have lots of things to offer, like beautiful scenery, fun things to do, and winning economics. Pittsburgh, though, is a loser in every one of these categories, and then some. It's home to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but pretty much that's about it. Absentee fans. Pittsburgh is so bad that many die-hard Steelers fans will not live there. When the steel mills began to close up in the 1980s and 1990s, the residents began an exodus out of the city that hadn't stopped yet. Now that the fans have found better places to live, they're basically scattered all over the US. Even those who root for the team from afar are throwing in the towel, the terrible towel that is. There is a lot of friction, and not just on the field. Despite the fact that the Steelers have won 6 of the 8 Super Bowls they played in, including 4 in 6 years, Steelers fans are known to complain a lot, which the players don't find cool at all. The weather. What is cool, though, is the weather in Pittsburgh. Actually, it's downright freezing. The winters are bitter cold, with temperatures that hover around the 30s and 40s for a high, but end up dipping well below freezing at night. You can get about 28 inches of slushy snowfall every single year, making the poorly kept roads a chilling nightmare. You'd think you'd catch a break in the summer, but not so much. You can count it as being muggy and miserable all year round. Pittsburgh has some of the worst weather in the entire nation. In fact, the Atlantic Ocean, Lake Erie, and the Ohio River are all to blame, which surround the city in a way that sets it up for mean jet streams that end up causing it to come in hard and heavy. Constant clouds always hang over Pittsburgh like the plague, separating the city from the sun and earning it the dreary title of being the 3rd cloudiest place in the nation. With an average of 37 inches of rain a year, the city is basically a soggy mess. Crime. If you do end up making the mistake of moving to Pittsburgh, be it for work or school, you might not live to tell about it. Violent crime is never that far away. The Northview Heights area has a population of 1,300, and the violent crime rate is 338% higher than the rest of the nation. If you own any property, then beware. This is where the Steel City truly lives up to its name, as 1 in every 34 people will become victims of either theft or vandalism. The overall crime rate is 38%, making it 15% above the national average. Crime is so popular that even the authorities have been known to get in on the action. 23 indictments were recently served to county prison guards for attempting to smuggle contraband, possession of drugs, and many other corruption charges. Boring lifestyle. In a way, you can hardly blame the criminals. Pittsburgh is so boring that whenever you search online for things to do, nothing hardly shows up. That is, unless you want to check out the neighborhood. Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, that is. In fact, you can see the original set and items from the show like King Friday's Castle and Mr. Rogers' lace-up sneakers, but hold on to yours. The place is located in the strip where your shoes might get stolen right off your own feet. You'd expect there to be a few things going on downtown at least, but it's just not happening. There's not really that many great shops, fun festivals, fabulous restaurants, or let alone any malls that are worthwhile. At one time, the downtown area was filled with things like banks and financial institutions, but these days, it's more like a ghost town gone bankrupt. If you are into sports, then you only have one choice, the Steeler Nation. If basketball is more your liking, then you'll be jumping through hoops to find a game. Pittsburgh is one of the few major US cities that does not have an NBA franchise. At a time, they did have a pro basketball team, but that was way back in 1967, and it was so foul that it basically went belly up the same year it started. Rude and crude attitude. Even if there were things to do, there's basically nobody to do them with. It's one of the unfriendliest cities in the US, ranking 23rd in a recent poll, but getting even worse score with a national report that ended up labeling Burr's quote-unquote world-class rude, and also said with their potty mouths that they were the 3rd most rude, crude, and improper city in the English-speaking world. The median age of the Steeler City is 32 to 33 years old, and 69% are single. But if you've got dating on your mind, forget about it. Pittsburgh is actually dubbed the 6th worst place to date, which is probably why 51% of the population has never been married. Not only are their people rude, but they have hearts of steel. They're ugly. Oh, Oh, and speaking of steel, everything in the city is, well, made of steel, which is why Pittsburgh earns a top spot as one of the trashiest cities in America. What's worse than looking at steel mills? Looking at abandoned steel mills. And yeah, there's plenty of them all over the town, basically smothered in old smog. How could one end up going wrong with so many historic neighborhoods in the city? Pittsburgh has managed to do it. At least 90% of the homes are 80 years or older. What could have been a scenic drive with a bit of patchwork of the city's cultural past is, instead, a maze of just old, gray, and trashy homes that have never been taken care of. Most of them have been destroyed beyond repair, and even the newer ones are monstrosities, with Allegheny Center and Epsilon neighborhoods ranking among the worst. Three rivers end up running through the city, but they're overflowing with industrial waste and sewage that makes them really crappy, literally. Trying to get around. Sure, there's a few nice spots here and there, but trying to get to them, it's kind of impossible. Navigating the city is practically a nightmare. The road system is flat out weird and very confusing. There's no straight through streets. How the bridges connect makes no sense either. The infrastructure itself dates back to the early 1900s, and the fact that there are hills and riverbeds everywhere puts a big dead end to any future plans for even attempting to have decent roads. You can always get around on a bike, but dodging cars is a problem, and there's a name for it: the Pittsburgh left. The law states that when vehicles turn left, they're supposed to yield to oncoming traffic, right? Not in this backward city. Drivers turn left whenever they please, putting oncoming traffic, bikers, and pedestrians all at risk. And if a lefty doesn't end up hitting you, a train sure might, since they whistle through the city like it's nothing. Public transportation is non-existent. You'll quickly find that the buses don't go anywhere that you want to go because the routes were set up in a whole different era. It doesn't really matter though, because the buses are very unreliable and are never on schedule. There once was a plan to fix the broken transit system, but that money ended up going allotted for affordable housing instead. Real estate. Speaking of homes, this brings us to yet another Pittsburgh problem: the housing. Maybe the affordable housing funds were allotted to the cause, but they obviously have not solved the issue. Many of the older affordable housing complexes have been demolished, and although new and improved units were promised, that didn't exactly plan out. The housing that does exist has been pushed to highly segregated areas, as if there wasn't enough division going on already. Rent runs a little over $1,000 to just under $2,000, depending on the size and location of the house or apartment, of course. The average listing price of a Pittsburgh home, though, is $240,000, with a yearly trend of 6.5%. That's 8% less than the national average, but utilities like heat are 10% higher. You'll be paying 7% more at the pump too, and your grocery bills will eat you alive. The job outlook. The current unemployment rate in Pittsburgh is 7.1%, which is considerably higher than the national average of 5.9%. Job growth is at an all-time low at negative 7.1%. The job outlook in the city has been corroding ever since the steel mills collapsed decades ago. High-tech, university, and financial field jobs had made an ill attempt to replace them, but the job outlook is still quite sickly. The average yearly salary is $61,000 a year, and that doesn't sound too bad. To live there, though, a combined income of $78,800 is more what you need to be having. And since the majority of residents are single, Pittsburgh, we've got a problem. Stuck. It's common to feel stuck in Pittsburgh, if you will. Since there's not much to do or see there, you may want to go elsewhere for a quick getaway. Good luck with that. The closest major city is Akron, Ohio, which is about 90 miles away, but what on earth are you going to do there? Drive another 50 miles, you'll hit Cleveland, and 10 more and you'll get to Columbus, but they're all as equally boring as Pittsburgh. You can try to fly somewhere, from personal storages to the internet going down. There's always some kind of turbulence at the airport. Tickets are sky high too. And it's even been said that the Pittsburgh International Airport only has inbound flights, and once you get there, you're stuck. But of course, that's not always true, but in a way it kind of is.